Here we go. Julius Caesar, chapter 33, book 1, Civil War. Probat, rem senatus. The Senate is a group of people acting singular here in these probat. So the Senate approved the rem, the matter, de mittendus legatus, of sending legates, or the sending of a legate. Mittendus is the gerundive version. Said, but, qui, who, mitterentur. This is plural from the NT, so who would be sent? Non reperiabantur. This person, qui, could not be found, reperiabantud. Maxime timoris causa. Causes this post position. Prepositions go in front and postpositions go behind. Goes behind the genitive. And gratia also does the same thing. Means for the sake of fear. So maxime, especially by reason or for the sake of fear. Pro se quisque. Quisque is any person who you like. Id munus, id's a neuter for munus is duty. Legationis recusabat. And so they couldn't find it. They could say no one could be found, and they refused themselves. Quisque is a singular again. Whoever there was would refuse themselves this duty of the legation for the sake of fear, especially pro se for themselves. They feared for themselves. Pompeius is Pompey, enim is for. For Pompey, discarding, so this is the nominative singular, as he was leaving ab urbe, the city is Rome. In the senatu, in the Senate, dixerat, he said, or he had said in the perfect version of the verb, Eodem se habiturum loco. This is a future infinitive. Habiturum, he would consider, coming from the dixit, which is a head verb, taking the infinitive and accusative construction. Consider eodem loco. Those qui Romana remanesset, those who remained at Rome, you consider them they'll be in the same place, or in the same place in his mind, since he's considering. Et qui in castris Caesaris fuissent. He'll consider these people et also as qui, those who were in the camp of Caesar. So, long story short, Pompey was leaving from the city of Rome, and he announced in the Senate that anyone who remained in Rome, he would consider them as if they were in the same place as if they were staying in the camp of Caesar. 6. So thus, tridum 3 days, disputionibus excusionibus qui extrahitur. So in disputes and excuses given, this is the ablative, that's why it's in, were extrahited, were dragged out. And what was dragged out? 3 days was dragged out in these disputes and excuses. Subicatur, someone is supplied in the passive sense. Sometimes it means forging and etc., but we'll go on. Etiam, even el metellus, this is a person who is a tribunus plebans, the tribune of the plebs. Metellus and tribunus go together in that position. By inimicus Caesaris, by the enemies of Caesar, this Metellus, tribune of plebs, by the enemy of Caesar, qui, who hanc rem distrahat, who were to, how will we say distrahat? Anyway, hanc rem would be the matter, so he was to drag out the matter, or what should we say, distract in this matter or something. So he was subicid. So he was supplied by the enemies of Caesar to make distractions in this matter, and reliquis qui, whatever was remaining in these matters, qua cum qui agere instituit. So quas compri, whatever Caesar was instituting agere, so what he was instituting to do, taking the infinitive, these remaining matters, whatever Caesar wanted to do, he was to impede about. So this is what Metellus was up to. So we'll have a daily dictionary of subico, which is the basic form of it. Throw, lay, place, subdue, prompt, propose, suggest, subject, submit, supplied. That's what we would. So he was supplied, or he was forging. Sometimes means substitute. Okay, where were we? Quis cognito concilio Caesar. So Caesar, having cognition of this plan, this is a ablative absolute, quis of him, this is a bit Metellus. So when Caesar has known these plans of him, of Metellus, frustra in vain, debus aliquot consumptus. Here we have aliquot, which is several days or some time, were consumed. We have debus consumptus again in ablative, so ablatives are usually by, with, from, sometimes in without the preposition. So several days are consumed up in vain. Ne reliquum tempus admitted, so that not, the ne, he would omit it, he would lose reliquum tempus, tempus is neuter, so lest he would lose the remaining time or more time. Infectus is, with these things incomplete, infectus means incomplete, and you can look that up if you need to. Quae agere destinaverit, things which he had destinaverit agere to do. You could probably see this in the download of verbs that take the infinitive. Destinaverit here is the perfect version of it. And so the things that were incomplete which he would destined to do, or which he decided he was going to do, so that he wouldn't lose time, days were taken up, he had things incomplete which he wanted to do, he profiscated ab urbe, set out from the city, at cui and into interior Gaul pervented. So he arrived there, he reached ulterior Gaul. Okay, quo cum venesset, to which place when venesset, when he got there, he arrived, cognoscit Caesar, understood or knew, missum a Pompei vibulum Rufum. Vibulus Rufus had been sent by Pompey, and if we want to insert something, we will put in Hispania, which the lobe text does, so we know he'd been sent into Spain by Pompey. That A can go down there, looks more sane. Quem, this quem would be the missum vibulum Rufus. So this Vibulus Rufus, who had been sent by Pompey, whom Porcus Antidebus, a few days before, Corfinia, this looks at Corfinium, he had been captum again. You see he's in the accusative here, he's in the accusative there, the supine version, and now he was captum. So Caesar had captured him a few days before at Corfinium and demiserated and set him free. Profectum item domitium. So items means likewise. Domitius, is this guy? Domitius had profectum, he had set out. Ad occupandam Massalium. So he had set out to occupy or seize this place here, Marseilles. This ulterior Gaul was basically France, where he was going up there earlier. Anyway, likewise, Domitian had set out to the seizing of Marseilles. Navibus actuarius septem. You can do it in septem or you can do it in Roman numerals, but with 7 navibus actuis, which are fast ships. Quas which, ships are female, so this quas is female, which iglai and in corsanio, a privatus coactus. So he had coacted them, he had gathered them together, or forced these together. A privatus from private citizens, it looks like. And these other names here in the capital letters are proper nouns. So Igilium and Cosa. Okay. Servus libertus colonus servus compleverat. So compleverat means you fill them up with, in the ablative, slaves, services, libertus, freedmen, and colonius. These are settlers there who had been in the army, I'm guessing, or as the lobe puts it, as tenants. So Domitius had went out to seize Marseilles with his 7 fast ships, which he'd manned with slaves and freedmen. And the Marsilians here, pre missos etiam legos. They had sent out legates. Pre usually means in front. Etiam mean also or even. They had sent them domum, home. Nobiles adolescens. These are noble young men or men of good birth. Quos, this is them, who ab urbe discendes Pompeius. So Pompey, when he had been leaving from the city, again that was Rome, something quos to these people, erat ad horditus. Okay. So Pompey had ad horditus. He had encouraged them or urged these noble young men, these quos, nay, that not the nova caesaris officia. These are new duties or works caesaris, genitive of Caesar. Veterum suorum beneficorum in eos memorum expellant. So these are new things Caesar's done. Should not expel around in their memories. The veteran, the old beneficiaries, or the old beneficial things that he had done of him, suorum's him. So this is what Pompey was encouraging these young men, not to let all these new ways of Caesar and his accomplishments expel from the memory into them. You wouldn't usually say expel into them, but expel from them the memories of the kindness which he had done in Eos towards them. Quibus mandatus accepted Marsilienses. So these are the Marsilian people with this ablative absolute section. When they had accepted or received this mandate, these instructions, the porters, which are the gates, they clausurented dative to Caesar. So the Marsilians, once they got these instructions, they closed their gates to Caesar. The Albicos, this is a people group, barbarous homines, these are all in apposition. The Albices are barbarian men, qui who, in eorum fide, so in fide, the ablative, who had been in the protection, eorum would be the Marsilians, who had been in the protection of the Marsilians, antiquitus erant, so it would be a long time of old Antiquus protection. Montesqui supra Marsilium incolaba. So they lived in the hills above Marsilia, Marseilles, and ad se vocavant. So the Marsilians, they closed their gates and they called, ad se to themselves, these albicus, these barbarous men. Antiquus is in a different case than fide. Fide is in the ablative. We'll just leave that for now and scroll a bit. Okay, so the qui, these people, errant Antiquus, they had been a long time in their protection and they inhabited the mountains. They called themselves frumentum is the grain or corn, ex finitimus regions, from the nearby regions, atqui and omnibus castellus, and all these forts or castles, into urbam convexerant. Convexerant means they carried these corn grain from all these regions and forts into the city. Amorum officianus in urbe instituturant, muros portas, classam reficiant, which means repaired. So the officinas comes from officina, which is an office or a workshop of armories in the city he instituted. So they repaired the muros portas and classam, which is the walls and the port, the gates, and the fleet. So evocat ad se Caesar. So Caesar called ad se to himself from Marsilia, looks ablative, so it's from there. 15 primos, the 15 leaders, I'd say. Primos would be the leaders. And cum his agate. And with these, his is the pronoun, he agated, he did something with them. He called them, so he obviously met them and conducted something with them. And ne initium infero bellae a Marsilianibus orata. So not the beginning of inferring the war, of beginning the war, of taking the war, should arise from these people. So he didn't want the beginning of the war to be conducted by the Marsilians. Debere, we're in the infinitive here. There ought to be eos to those. Italia totus auctoritatem. They ought to sequi, to follow. Debere takes infinitive. They ought to sequi, follow the authority totius Italia, which is a double genitive of all of Italy. They ought to follow the authority of all of Italy, potius quam, rather than unius hominis voluntate obtempore. Obtempore means to follow, obey sort of thing. Then to obey the voluntate, the will, unius homo, of one man. Unius is one of the 9 praenominatives, or whatever they're called, pronominals, naughty 9. Reliqua, rest of the things, quae ad eorum senanders, mentes, pertine arbitrata. So the rest of the things, arbitranta, which he was thinking, quaes which he was thinking, to the senates, which means to the senati eorum of theirs, mentes, their minds, pertinent. So the things which he was thinking takes the infinitive of the errata oblique. So the things which he was thinking pertinent to the bringing them into the senati in their minds, Synandus is the gerundive going with mentes here. He commemorated, so he relived these things. He thought of what would bring them to their senses. Cuis, of his orationem legati domum referret. So of his speech, his oration, the legates and the nominative plural, they referred this the words of this oration, domum. Domum doesn't take an ad, it's one of those words, it just means an accusative that they went home. And ex oritate, and from authority, haec, these things, Caesarea dative, to Caesar, they renunciated. They announced these things to Caesar from the authority, which we believe is the 600 town councillors, which is in this particular work. Nuntio is taking the infinitive again in this little section after the semicolon. They understand, say, divisum est populum Romanum in partes dues. They understood that the Roman people are divided into two parts, say themselves. Nequi, so neither sui judici nequi suarum esse virium discernere, so neither it is in suis judici in our judgment, nor of our virum, or of our men to discern, to decide. So basically, it's not in their judgment, nor of their men to decide this. Ultra pars, ultra means one of the two, and it's the female version. Which part, justia or habet causum, has the more justia cause, more comparative, more just cause or case for war. So they know that the Roman people are divided into two parties. They don't know which one of them they should decide upon, which has the better cause or the just cause. Vero, but principes, saearum partium, but the leaders of these two parts, is Gnaeus Pompeius and Gaius Caesar, Pompey and Caesar, Patronus Civitate. These are patrons, both patrons of the Civitatis of this state, which is Marseilles. Quorum alter, of which one, there's a bit of a mix-up in the text here, but of which one the Agros, which is the fields of the Volcarum Aorumicums and the Helvoriums, he concessurated is to them publicly. So these are lands which were conceded by one of them from the Volco, Aracomi and the Helvi, and the other, don't really know which is which, they're not using the former and the later, and the other, this is where the difference is in the text. This one has Gallia or something. Gallias, which is the female version. And so the other one, who was had victories, Gallius, bellow in war, had attributed this to them, and vecticles auxeret, and had increased their vecticles, which are taxes and revenues. So that's what's going on in this little section after the semicolon. One of them had conceded the lands to them, public lands, publici, and the other had attributed some lands that he had won, Gallias, or the other word, which was Salias. Don't think it really matters. And we're almost done. Quare, in this sense, it means therefore, paribus eorum beneficis, therefore of the equal beneficialness of them, parem say, equally also, debere ought to be attributed, tribuere voluntatem, which is the will. So, saying therefore, we have equal goodwill, and therefore we ought to give equal goodwill as well. So, beneficis is literally means bene, which is well, and ficus means deeds, and voluntatem is the will. And neutrum eorum, and neither of them, contra autem, against the other. So the debere is also picking up the infinitive here on the euvre, to help. So they ought to give attribute their will parem equally, and also they ought to help neither of them against the other one. Or urbe or portus recipere, or to receive into the city or the harbours, either of the two of them.